guys, welcome back to another video. We're finally doing a sit-down video. I feel like I haven't done one of these in so long. And maybe I haven't, but today we're going to be getting into what I am hoping and looking forward to reading in the month of April. We have a lot of fun things happening in the month of April, so I'm very excited. I think this is going to be a really good reading month. Last month, I really leaned into the mood reading aspect of reading, which I love to do. I'm very much a big mood reader. I love to just see what I'm feeling in the moment and then pick a book based on that. So I didn't really have that much of a TBR. So I didn't really post a TBR, but this is a little bit different because I have some readathons going on, some book clubs going on, so let's just get into it. I do plan to still mood read this month, so I'm not getting rid of that completely. I'm gonna have a more physical TBR than I have the past few months. So I thought I would share that with you guys. So the first one is for my Patreon book club, which, if you do not know, I have a Patreon and it is specifically dragon themed. I love dragons. I'm a huge fantasy reader, and we don't just read fantasy, we read a lot of stuff, but I definitely have it themed around dragons. So we do a monthly book club where we pick a book. I usually give people 3 options, and then every patron, you can, if you're the $4 tier all the way to the $10 tier, can vote for whatever book they want to read that month, and then whoever is the winner, that is the book we read and discuss at the end of the month. I usually discuss at the beginning of the next month just to give people a little extra time to get their reading in, because I know a lot of people have book clubs and there's just a lot to do, so it's hopefully low pressure for my patrons. But we also do a lot of different fun things too. We do movie nights for the top 2 tiers. I do a hangout session for the top tier. We recently just did some trivia, and when we do trivia, I do like a little prize for the winner. And yeah, it's really, really fun. We do a lot of stuff. There are graphics involved that are exclusive just to my patrons. There are some more updates than most people get in my everyday life. And I also do weekly sprints on Sundays to kind of get rid of those Sunday scaries and get our reading in before the beginning of the week hits us. So the book that we picked for this month, I was kind of surprised by. I did not think this one was going to win, but it did. And I am also glad, because this one is a shorter book, and I don't know exactly how the discussion is going to look for it, but I'm excited to read it either way, especially since I have so many other books that I'm trying to get to this month. And we're going to be reading Happily Never After by Lynn Painter. This is going to be my first adult book by Lynn Painter. I've read Better Than the Movies and The Do-Over, both of which I enjoyed. I really loved Better Than the Movies. I did like The Do-Over. It wasn't my favorite, but I did like it a lot. And so I've heard a lot of good things about her adult series, and I'm really excited to get into this one. It's less than 300 pages. I think it's like 290-ish, 292, whatever, same difference. So it's very short, and it'll be a quick, easy, fun read, and I'm just really looking forward to diving into another book of hers. Our main character is Sophie, and she is about to get married, and she finds out that her fiance has been cheating on her, and she just does not want to go through with this wedding, but she also feels like she has to, because her fiance's dad is her dad's boss, and it's just a very complicated, messy situation. But she finds out that this guy Max, who is our other main character, our male main character, if you will, he is a professional wedding objector. And basically he gets paid to say I object and to stop the wedding in case nobody else wants to do it. Like, who wants to be that person? But sometimes you need to be that person, and that's who Max is. So that happens to Sophie, and she wants to know more about what he does. And when she learns like all the business is about, she decides that she wants to become an objector for weddings herself. So Max and Sophie are just going around objecting to all these weddings, but they're having like the time of their life. They obviously start feeling something towards each other. There's a little bit of physical chemistry involved, and I think it leads to a few hookups, but they just have figured out that they really have chemistry. They hit it off, but they don't believe in love, and so that's kind of hard to experience, I guess. It's probably difficult to experience love when you don't think it exists. But then a groom hires Sophie to interrupt during his wedding, and it turns out that his fiance is a girl who broke Max's heart. And Max doesn't know if he can help and go through with this. And Sophie, I think that's when Sophie starts to realize, maybe I actually have fallen for this guy. So I'm excited to get into it and see what kind of romance this is. It doesn't sound like typically something I would pick up, but I never know. You never know with Lynn Painter what she's going to throw in there. I feel like she's very slept on sometimes. Like her books are underrated, definitely. So I'm very excited to see what I think. And the next book that I am reading is for Liv's Patreon. I am a part of her Patreon as well, and I really like the books that she chooses. And so I already had this one, and I've been needed an excuse to like finally read it. Besides, like, it's a new release, so I'm very excited about that. And everybody's been talking about it. This book like blew up out of nowhere, and I tried to get my hands on it as best as possible through Book of the Month, and I was able to secure a copy, and that is Heartless Hunter by Kristen Ciccarelli, I think is how you say your name, or this is also known in the UK as The Crimson Moth. The series or duology, I think it's supposed to be a duology, or maybe I don't know, maybe it's supposed to, I don't know if it's supposed to have 2 or 3 books. I can't remember. But either way, it is a series. I think this is a gorgeous cover, though. I really do like it. And I've had a friend recently, Elizabeth, read this, and she is obsessed with it. I've seen Desi from Darling Desi really loved it. So I feel like I have to pick it up now. It says, enemies to lovers doesn't get more high stakes than a witch and a witch hunter falling in love. Obviously, that's going to get me. You throw in witch and witch hunter, I'll automatically know it's a fantasy book and we have enemies to lovers. So, I'm already sold. On the night Rune's life changed forever, blood ran in the streets. Now in the aftermath of a devastating revolution, witches have been diminished from powerful rulers to outcasts ruthlessly hunted due to their waning magic. And Rune must hide what she is. Spending her days pretending to be nothing more than a vapid young socialite, Rune spends her night as the Crimson Moth, a witch vigilante who rescues her kind from being purged. When a rescue goes wrong, she decides to throw the witch hunters off her scent and gain the intel she desperately needs by courting the handsome Gideon Sharp. He's a notorious and unforgiving witch hunter, loyal to the revolution, and too late, Rune realizes she might be falling for him. Gideon loathes the decadence and superficiality Rune represents, but when he learns the Crimson Moth has been using Rune's merchant ships to smuggle renegade witches out of the Republic, he inserts himself into her social circles by pretending to court her. He soon realizes that beneath her beauty and shallow facade is someone fiercely intelligent and tender who feels like his perfect match. Except what if she's the very villain he's been hunting? This is giving me serpent and dove vibes times like 100. So I feel like this is going to be very what's the word, like not heart-stopping, breathtaking. I feel like there's going to be a lot of moments where there's tension and you don't know what's going to happen next. So I'm excited to get into this one and discuss it over on Liv's Patreon. And then we have my bestie Rachel over at the Bestie Book Sleeve, who y'all mostly know her as, but she also has a book club that she hosts herself, and it is like a mystery thriller book club, and she hosts it every other month right now. And it's called Nobody No Crime Book Club. So I will leave the link down below for her Instagram if you want to check it out. It's really fun. She picks a lot of good recs, and Rachel's like the mystery thriller queen in my eyes because she's just read so many more than I have. Since it is her birthday coming up on April 7th, she decided to host a readathon, and it's called the Nobody No Crime Readathon. It's Taylor Swift theme, obviously, and it's a thriller readathon, and she has 4 different prompts. It's happening from April 4th through the 7th. Anybody can participate in it. All you have to do is just go look at her Instagram, and she has all of the information there in her post. She also has a story highlight with a ton of recs for different like books for the prompts that she has. She's also hosting some reading sprints on Friday and Saturday. I will be on the ones Saturday if you guys want to join. Those are April 5th and the 6th, and they will be at 4 p.m. Pacific Standard Time or 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So I'm just going to go through her prompts and what I'm reading for each of those and how they cover it. So the first one is an isolated setting, and I'm going to be reading Falling by TJ Newman. I decided to go with a good many, I think 3 out of 4 of my books Rachel has read, and she is very excited that I'm reading them because they are some of her favorite reads. And this one is very short, so that's why I picked this one. I think it's, like I said, less than 300 pages for this one, and it is an isolated setting because everything is happening on an airplane. And it sounds horrific if I'm being honest. It doesn't even really have a synopsis, but it says, you just boarded a flight to New York. There are 143 other passengers on board. What you don't know is that 30 minutes before the flight, your pilot's family was kidnapped. For his family to live, everyone on your plane must die. The only way the family will survive is if the pilot follows his orders and crashes the plane. Enjoy the flight. I was originally going to read this when I went to fly out to meet Rachel and Elizabeth in Washington, and they were like, do not do that because this will literally make you not want to get on the plane. And so I listened, like the intellect that I am, and didn't do that. But an author, Don Winslow, said this is Jaws at 35,000 feet in the air. I recently read Thin Air, and that takes place, it's like a competition on a plane, and there's deaths going around, you know, people are dying, and it was really, like, it was pretty good. I think I gave it 3.5 stars. I enjoyed it, but it just, I don't know, something was missing. So I feel like this one, Rachel said it's very much like hard to read. You're like holding your breath the entire time. You're scared of what's going to happen next. And so I hope that this is one that I can just fly through during the weekend, and hopefully this has kind of a good ending. I hope not everybody dies, but you never know. It also does have a sequel, so I definitely have been meaning to get to this one for a while now. The next one is to pick a new release. You know, it can be from last year too. Rachel doesn't really care when you pick, like, what year it's from. But this one just came out this year, and I actually had an ARC of it, an e-ARC from NetGalley, but I never got to it. So I got it through Book of the Month, and that is Kill for Me, Kill for You by Steve Cavanagh. I've never read a book by Steve Cavanagh, but this one just, like, really drew me in by the synopsis and what it's about. And so I'm really excited to get to it. I've also seen that it's been called Hitchcockian, and if you don't know, Hitchcock is a famous movie director. He directed Psycho, and it's just, that was like the OG scary movie for its time, and it's still a really good one. So I'm excited to get into this and see if it's as, you know, creepy as that movie was, and see just how close to Hitchcock this one actually is. So somehow these two women, Amanda and Wendy, meet in New York City. They meet up for drinks, and they're talking about their lives and what's gone wrong in them, and they just realize that they have the biggest urge to get revenge on these men that have destroyed their families. And they make a pact that if you kill for me, I'll kill for you. So Amanda is going to go after who Wendy wants to kill, and Wendy is going to go after who Amanda wants to kill. But then we have another woman named Ruth who has been married to her husband, and she lives in the, I think, a countryside. I'm sorry, a brownstone. It's not very country, but she lives in a brownstone with her husband when all of a sudden it's invaded by a man with these piercing blue eyes, and her life is just destroyed through that, and she doesn't know what to do after that. You know, her life is in shambles. And that's really all that you get from the synopsis, and basically all of the storylines are going to collide somehow, and it's going to leave you in a shocking ending, is what it says. So I'm truly hoping that I'm shocked, because I feel like this one has the potential to be a 5-star read. The next prompt is to pick a book that is your favorite trope. So that can be domestic thrillers, or books with a narrator that you can't, you know, quite trust, psychological thrillers, different things like that. And again, Rachel has a story highlight with a bunch of different tropes and book recommendations that she has based on your favorite trope. My personal favorite trope is psychological thrillers. I really enjoy them. I love just my mind being blown at the end, and so I'm picking up a Rachel favorite as well, and that is Layla by Colleen Hoover. I read Verity a really long time ago, I think in 2019, which, I mean, that's not really long, but it felt like a long time ago. And I loved it. It blew my mind. I was shocked. I think that was close to one of the first, it was like the first or second psychological thriller or thriller book that I had ever read. And I know that book is kind of like some people really love it or some people really hate it. There's no in between. But a lot of people, I have not heard a single bad thing about Layla, so I'm excited to get into it. So we have two main characters. Our male main character is Leeds, and our female main character is Layla. And Layla suffers, or she gets into this really traumatic accident. It's an unexpected attack is what it says. So it leaves her really fighting for her life, and over the course of her recovering through the hospital and different things like that, Leeds finds, like, he is just kind of baffled because Layla isn't the woman that he fell in love with, and he just doesn't really know who she is anymore. And so he decides, once she's better and able to get out of the hospital, that he's gonna whisk her away and take her to this bed and breakfast that they met at, or that they went to when they were first dating or something like that. And Leeds starts seeing that Layla is acting very strange. Things are happening that don't make sense, and she's just not, again, acting like herself and the woman that he knows. So Leeds meets this girl named Willow, who is also at the B&B, who is very concerned for Layla as well, and they are just kind of connecting over their concerns for Layla, and they start growing this connection, you know. But then something happens where Leeds is going to have to make a choice. Is he going to help save Willow and help her the best that he can, or is he going to do the same for Layla? Because he can't pick both of them, and if he doesn't pick at all, it could be very bad for all of them. I've heard this one has some, like, paranormal aspects to it, which I really love, and I feel like this is going to give me, like, that psychological thriller movie vibes that I really love. So this one I'm super excited for. And the last trope is to read a book that has a good for her or revenge element in it. And I am choosing Such Sharp Teeth by Rachel Harrison. I have read Cackle, and is that it? Is that the only Rachel Harrison book I've read? I feel like it is, but I feel like it shouldn't be. Yeah, it is. I own Black Sheep and The Return, but I just have not read them yet. So this will be my second Rachel Harrison. I really loved Cackle, and I feel like I'm going to really like this one, I hope. It says, Rory Morris isn't thrilled to be moving back to her hometown, even if it's only temporary. There are bad memories there, but her twin sister Scarlett is pregnant, estranged from the baby's father, and needs support. So Rory returns to the place she thought she'd put in her rear view. After a night out at a bar where she runs into an old almost flame, she hits a large animal with her car. And when she gets out to investigate, she's attacked. Rory survives miraculously, but life begins to look and feel different. She's unnaturally strong with an aversion to silver, and suddenly the moon has her in its thrall. She's changing into someone else, something else, maybe even a monster. But does that mean she's putting those close to her in danger, or is embracing the wildness inside her the key to acceptance? This dark comedic love story is a brilliantly layered portrait of trauma, rage, and vulnerability. I just love the way that Rachel Harrison writes. It's very much like cozy horror, if you will, and I just feel like this one is going to be so good, and I'm really looking forward to it. And then Liv is hosting a spring readathon on her Patreon from April 22nd through 28th. You do have to be a patron in order to, you know, participate in it. So me and Liv are both a part of each other's Patreons, and we just support each other through that. So I'm going to go over the books that I'll be reading and what prompts they cover. She does have a buddy read, and she's going to be hosting reading sprints and a live book discussion on April 28th. And then we're doing a movie night on April 26th, which is a Friday, and we're going to be watching Emma with Anya Taylor-Joy in it, and we're going to be, like, discussing that in the Discord chat. So I always love a good movie night. They're so much fun, and I can't wait. So I'm excited. So the first book that I'm going to read is the buddy read, and it also covers the first prompt as well, which is to read a book that is new to you, or the author can be new to you as well, which both of these, but this covers, like, this is a new to me author and a new to me series. So I'll be reading Half a Soul by Olivia Atwater. Like I said, this is the buddy read pick that we'll be discussing, so I'm killing two birds with one stone here. And I've talked about what this one is before. It is very, like, fairy, very Renaissance type. It's supposed to be like a cozy fantasy series. And like I said, I've talked about it before on my channel. I've meant to have read this already, but obviously that has not happened. But a lot of people say that it gives them ACOTAR meets Bridgerton vibes. I think it leans heavily on the Bridgerton vibes, but there are fae mixed in here, so that's where the ACOTAR comes in. But Olivia Holton said that this is a delightful debut that will transport you to a magical version of Regency England where the only thing more meddlesome than a fairy is a marriage-minded mother. It's supposed to be delightful, just like whimsical, and I'm just excited to finally get to it after saying I'm going to all this time. The next prompt is to read a book that has a nature element either in the title or on the cover, and mine actually has both. I'm going to be reading Foxglove by Adalyn Grace. This is the sequel to Belladonna, and the third book also comes out this year, and it's called Wisteria. So Foxglove is actually a nature element, and obviously we have some flowers and stuff on the cover, which is Foxglove. I am excited. This is the sequel, so I'm not going to go into too much about what it's about, but I loved Belladonna. It was the perfect gothic young adult fantasy. It gave me super creepy house, like haunted house vibes. It kind of is like, reminded me a lot of The Secret Garden. There is a big twist at the end. It's just, it had so many more things than just like young adult fantasy elements and just like romance elements. So if you have not checked out this series yet, you definitely need to, and now would be the perfect time to do it. And the last one is pretty simple. It's to read a book that is in your physical TBR. So I can pick any book that I want for my shelves. And I decided to go with a book that I have had on my shelves for way too long. I've talked about this again in multiple videos, and I have yet to get to it, and that is Small Favors by Erin A. Craig. I love Erin A. Craig's writing. I love her House of Salt and Sorrow series. And I just, every time she posts something on Instagram with like little quotes from her books, it just makes me even more excited to read them. This one says, Ellery Downing is waiting for something to happen. Life in isolated Amity Falls, surrounded by an impenetrable forest, has a predictable sameness. Her days are filled with tending to her family's beehives, chasing after her sisters, and dreaming of bigger things while her twin, Samuel, is free to roam as he wishes. Early settlers fought off monstrous creatures in the woods, and whispers that the creatures still exist keep the Downings and their neighbors from venturing too far. When some townsfolk go missing on a trip to fetch supplies, a heavy unease settles over the falls. Strange activities begin to plague the town, and as the seasons change, it's clear that something is terribly wrong. The creatures are real, and they're offering to fulfill the residents' deepest desires, however grand, for just a small favor. The seemingly trifling demands, however, hide sinister intentions. Soon Ellery finds herself in a race against time to stop Amity Falls, her family, and the boy she loves from going up in flames. It says this is a mesmerizing and chilling novel about dark wishes and dreams and what lurks in the shadows of the people you think you know. So I'm just so stoked to finally get to this one. It's just, I can already tell it's going to be amazing. And the last prompt isn't necessarily a book prompt, but it's to read a book outside. And so I'll just be picking one of these or all of these and reading them, or reading part of them outside at some point. But those are all the books that are on my physical TBR for April that I want to get to, and any other books that I get to for the rest of the month will basically be whatever I decide to mood read at that point in time. I feel like April is going to be a really good reading month. I'm excited for my spring reads. I'm so happy spring is finally here. It's my favorite season, and I just cannot wait to dive into these books. But thank you so much for joining in and watching and hanging out. If you're still here at the end of this video, please leave a bee emoji down below. And also comment and let me know what book you are most looking forward to reading this spring. Hope you guys have a beautiful day, and I will see you guys in my next video.